Hey, what is up? What is up? Sorry about that. We just had an audio issue. I was part of the video, so I figured we should restart it fresh. So, just to recap, today I'm going to be hosting part two of a two-part live stream that I've been hosting on automation. So, inside of the Different Hunger Facebook community, which is called the New Agency, we have had a number of people mention that automation is one of the biggest challenges inside of their business. So here you can see this poll that we did inside the group. And so that inspired me to come on and put together these trainings for you guys to help you with automating your business operations. If you missed part one, which was last Friday, just jump into the Facebook community. I'll drop a link so you can do that. But this is what we covered in the last training, which was who's automation for, who is it not for, getting started, automating onboarding, lead gen, and sales funnels. So that was a really valuable training. We had a lot of great feedback. So you're going to want to make sure that you jump in. It's totally free, so you got nothing to lose other than maybe 5 seconds of your time, but I'm sure it'll be worth it, right? So in today's training, we're going to start by talking about what should be automated and what should not be automated, as well as what should be delegated and what should not be delegated. So it's really critical that we start there because a lot of people just jump right into automation without having a sound strategy or foundation in place. And so that's why I want to start with this. All right. So real quick, I just want to make sure all of the audio is dialed in. We just had some issues, so I just want to make sure that's all Gucci. So let me just make sure that that's cool. And then we can go ahead and jump on in. So I'm just making sure that's good. All right. We should be good now. All right. So let's do it. All right. So first of all, let's start with what should not be automated. So I'm going to assume that you, the listener, is a business owner, okay? And I'm assuming that you are not hiring a CEO. You're not paying a CEO 10K a month, 20K a month to run your business for you. So in that case, these are some tasks that you do not ever want to automate. So the first is, where is the business and where is it going? So in other words, where's the business today and what are the 90-day goals? What are the 1-year goals? What are the 3-year goals look like? And if they're not specific goals, what is the vision for the next 60, 90, 365, right? And then from there, understanding, all right, what are the bottlenecks that are keeping us from achieving these goals, right? And then based on those bottlenecks and those opportunities, you're going to design a strategy that's going to allow you to achieve your goals. And that is your job as the business owner. Then based on that strategy, there's going to be resources that you need to allocate. Those are going to be things like marketing budget, advertising budget, operations budget, salaries, contractors, all those things. You want to own where that money goes, okay? So let's say you want to make $1 million in the next 12 months. Where's the budget going? What budgets are we looking at? And then based on that, who do we need to hire? And more importantly, what is the culture and the environment that you want to create for your company as the business owner? Because if you are bringing in talent, they're not going to stick around, especially top talent. They're not going to stick around if they don't feel inspired by the culture that they're a part of. So that's critical. And you as the business owner, that's your job because you're typically the one with the big vision. And you want to be able to create a culture that supports that vision. And then lastly is the org chart, right? So based on the above items of the strategy, the resources, who are you hiring, what are each of those people doing, right? Who's owning marketing? Who's owning this KPI? Who's owning this objective? You have to be able to put together that org chart and articulate why you put it together that way. All right. So these are some tasks that you never want to automate as a business owner. All right. So just drop me a comment, drop me a like if that makes sense, if that is something that resonates, if that's something that is providing some clarity to you, because that's really what I want to provide on this slide, clarity, so that you can get clear on your own bottlenecks and get some clarity on, what are the next steps to resolve those. All right. So next is, what do we want to automate or delegate? Okay. So this is a concept that we share with our clients for our agency, as well as our consulting courses, membership, all that good stuff. And so this was one of the most valuable materials that they have said that they've been through while working with us. And that is to assign dollar per hour values for all of the tasks that you perform on a daily basis. Because what you want to do is, you as the business owner, you want to spend as much time as possible, if not all of your time, doing high value tasks. So even $250 per hour tasks, for many, that is high value. However, there's another bucket above that, which is $1,000 per hour tasks. Okay. And so everything below that, starting with $10 per hour, $50 per hour, $250 per hour, in that order, you want to get off of your plate as the business owner. And this is one of the biggest bottlenecks that I see when I, when I talk to agency owners, service-based business owners, because they're spending all of their time here, right? So if you're spending all of your time sending emails, setting up phone calls, transcribing, data entry, cold calling, social media, blah, 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 how do you expect to grow your business? How do you expect to grow your business if you are spending your time doing tasks that you could easily outsource for less than $10 per hour? Well, chances are you're spending way too much time doing those low value tasks. And so that's why I always start with this, because again, we talk about making money, we talk about growing big businesses, multi-million-dollar companies, 8-figure, 9 figures, whatever. But if you don't have your time, then you're broke, right? Because if you have all the money in the bank, but you have no time to enjoy your life, as far as I'm concerned, you're broke and you're miserable. So that's why we want to start with this. That's why we want to ingrain this into our brain. And so if you're watching this, take a screenshot, take a snapshot into your memory right now, because this is truly one of the most valuable things that I could ever share. And this is something I learned from my mentors, and I'm always excited about sharing this with other people. All right. So what you want to do is figure out, all right, for example, bookkeeping. You can delegate that out. I know there's plenty of different services that handle bookkeeping. So that could be one thing that you just, boom, handled. All right. And then there's these $50 per hour tasks, which are the next level up. Those are the next things that you want to look into delegating and automating. A lot of this stuff, for example, coding, that's something that is being automated right now with tools like Webflow and a lot of these web-based builders. So, the world is shifting greatly, and it's great because, in my opinion, human beings should be doing creative work, high-level creative work, and that is the gift of humanity, in my opinion. So everything else, especially as a business owner, get that off your plate. All right? And so this is just a little bit of a brainstorm for some of those most common value-sucking, time-sucking tasks that, I talked to a girl a few weeks ago. She said she's doing like $4,000 a month, but she literally is just working nonstop. And chances are she's probably spending a lot of her time, if not all of her time, doing these low value tasks. And that's very, very common. But it's important that you have that awareness to move beyond that. All right. So let me know if that makes sense, guys. Drop me a like, drop me a comment. Just want to make sure this is resonating and making sense for everyone listening. All right. So with that, let's move on to the next bit here. All right. All right, so next up is service delivery, which also includes client and project management. All right, so what I'm about to share with you, I have used in my own agency, and as you can see here, there's about 20 something people in that Trello board where we would manage our agency projects. And so what I'm about to share, this scales, right? Everything I'm about to share with you, it scales. So that's why it's so important that you understand this strategy before you get into things like automation, because you as the business owner, you want to have a pulse on the process that you're using to deliver for your clients, to manage your team, to manage projects, okay? So like I said, this system has been proven with my agency. It's built multiple six-figure agency. It's worked, with 20 plus contractors. It's been used by my clients, my consulting clients. Some of them, most of them have bigger businesses than me, which is awesome. And so these are a few elements of the client and process that are really essential to get to the point where you can start plugging in really anybody and having the confidence to know that they can deliver. So the first thing is mapping out your process, and we're gonna get into this in just a bit. But here you can see this was actually a process for my lead generation agency, and as you can see, we have a very clear step-by-step process and protocol that we followed for each client, and it's very profitable as well. And so that is the beauty of having a very tightly defined process. And then after that, you have these visuals. And for me, I'm a visual guy. I'm a designer. I'm a creator. Having visuals to support really helps ensure the process gets followed. All right, so now let's jump into really the 3 pillars of service delivery and client and project management. All right, so the first part is process, okay? And so your process is your IP. That is your value. That is what clients are paying you for. And so if you change your process with every new client, that is not good. That is not a scalable, sustainable business. And that is a trap that so many service businesses fall into. Every client, they come in and maybe they were sold the same thing, but then the client says, oh, well, could you just do this? Could you just do this? Could you just do this? And before you know it, you have to rewrite your process over and over and over and over again. And that is impossible to scale because you cannot scale chaos, right? And you don't want to scale chaos because if you're maxing out at 5K a month, 10K a month, sometimes 20K, 40K a month, whatever it is, if you're maxing out at that level and you're trying to continue growing without changing how you operate, you're just asking for panic attacks and for anxiety and for burnout and for constant stress. And that's not why you started your business to begin with. I know that. And so that's why process is everything. And so when it comes to process, what's really valuable is to have what I call a playbook or a manual for how your process gets implemented. And so with my design agency, we had a very detailed 5-phase process for how we executed on design projects. So we had everything from pre-sales to discovery to pre-design to design, development, and launch. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to go this in depth, but you absolutely need to be able to map out step by step what your process looks like. Because until you do that, you're not going to be able to delegate the work out. Because if you hire somebody, they're going to come back to you and say, well, what do I do next? And you're going to have to tell them. And then they're going to say, well, what do I do next? And then you're going to have to tell them again. And you're never going to be able to remove yourself from the business, and you're always going to be the bottleneck in the business. And so that is why so many service businesses go nowhere, because again, they're constantly one, changing their process, and then two, they don't have their processes or their systems defined and documented. Okay, So within the playbook and these guides, you're going to have reference files, you're going to have templates, and you're going to have SOPs. Okay. So what does this mean? So for example, here I have swipe copy for confirming an appointment, right? If the prospect is requesting a proposal, I have a project proposal template. And now this is for design projects. I do not recommend that you do proposals because proposals are basically free work. And so this is just an example of the production process, but I just wanted to point that out because, again, proposals are free work and they also take up a ton of time. But what I'm is that, again, within this bigger playbook of how you operate, you have these templates, you have these reference files, you have swipe copy, you have all of the assets that are required to execute on these projects. Okay, so that's the first pillar of process for delivery. And again, we're talking about the playbook, which would include the onboarding process, which we covered in the last training. It would cover the service delivery process. It would cover the project management process. It would cover the account management process, right? So you have this bigger playbook, and then within that, you have these reference files, you have these templates, you have these SOPs. All right, so that's the first step. And really, until you have this done, you don't want to think about automation because you need to have a really sound, solid process. And then once you have something that works, automation can be leveraged to make it work better, faster, and more efficiently. All right, so the next part here, is number 2, people. Okay, so the typical sort of flow that works really well, that I've used, that all of my clients use, is one, to have a director or a strategist. Okay, that may be a business owner. It may be a creative director or more senior level person on your team. Then below them, you have the manager. And what the manager does is their job is to implement the strategy from the director and manage the implementation, which is going to be done by virtual assistants and contractors. Okay, so just an example of this is our creative production process in my agency. Okay, so the typical sort of workflow for the communication here is starting off with the creative director, which then says, all right, here's the strategy, here's the objective, here's the deadlines, and then boom, the project manager receives that, and then he passes that along to the team member, and then sometimes you can have a QA team member that's just making sure everything's ready for production and going live. Okay, so that is phase 2, which is people. And really, the beauty of this is you don't need to hire very expensive people if you have a very defined process. Okay, so if you just have a step-by-step checklist that anybody can implement, that means you can go overseas and find VAs for a few dollars an hour to help execute, so that you can start looking at 60, 70, 80, sometimes even 90% profit margins on your services. All right. And then lastly is execution, okay? And so execution is critical. And this is one of the biggest challenges for most businesses, including my own at times, right? Because execution is everything. And so 2 things that I want to emphasize is, one, you have to centralize your project and task management, okay? You can't be going in between email, Slack, Trello, Asana, Basecamp, right? You can't be using 6 different tools. Pick one. Just pick one. That's it, okay? Because if you're not centralizing your project and task management, it's just chaos. It's just absolute chaos, okay? So pick one. I use Trello because it works, integrates with everything. The next is communication channel. So how many times have you talk to a client maybe on WhatsApp, and then Facebook Messenger, and then email, and then I don't know, some random app that you decided to throw in the mix? That is chaos. You need to centralize your communication as well. So is it going to be email? Is it going to be Slack? Where are you going to communicate with your team and with your clients? Okay, Slack works really well for this. That's what we've used in the past. And so once you have these things dialed in, what we actually do is we send out a whole client onboarding guide where we're talking about how we're going to communicate. What are the tools that you need for our project? How are you supposed to share files? What's your timeline? What do you expect moving forward? What's the approval process? All of these things are just clearly laid out so that there's no gray area. And this allows us to set the expectations crystal clear for our clients, so that we're both on the same page before we begin the project, right? Because the other thing is, I hear all the time is, you're halfway through a project and nobody even knows where you're at in the project, right? It's like, where are we at? Are we halfway done? Have we started? Are we finished? Like, it's just madness, right? And so once you have those two things dialed in, as well as the objectives and the deadlines per campaign or project or deliverable, then you're ready to start looking into things like automation to really bring this to life and create a better, more streamlined, efficient process. Okay, so process, people, and execution. Those are absolutely essential to deliver for clients, to manage clients, and to manage projects successfully when you're running a service business. All right, so let me know if that makes sense. Just drop me a comment, give me a thumbs up, all that good stuff, just so I know this is resonating and landing. All right, so after that, what we're going to get into is automations. Okay, so this isn't going to take too much time, but I'm just going to run through some of the elements of the delivery and management processes that you can automate. So the first one is onboarding, and we talked about this in the last one. I'll just briefly, in the last live stream, I'll just briefly cover this again. So one is, I've seen people use chatbots for onboarding, which is pretty unique and engaging. You can also use emails to just basically give people set expectations, set timelines, provide them with assets, resources that they need. Okay. The next thing is surveys. So instead of manually sending out surveys, you can include those surveys in your email streams, in your chatbot communications, whatever it may be. And then that data can get pushed into a centralized dashboard on something like Google Sheets, which allows you to monitor and track the success of how your clients are feeling, right? And then for services management, it says product here, but I'll just update that. Again, you're getting feedback through things like surveys, and using a dashboard, you can track their metrics and their success. Also, within your communications with your clients throughout the services engagement, you're able to include things like Calendly in your emails. If your clients, maybe they're lost or they want to check in or they want to update or request more work from you, which is great, just drop them a Calendly, and that automates the meeting booking process, right? So you don't have to constantly be chasing your clients. Your clients don't have to constantly be chasing you. Everything is centralized, everything is streamlined, and many of these things can be automated. All right, so that's what I wanted to cover in today's training. So we just went through the delivery process, the client management process, and then lastly, project management. The last thing I want to show you for project management is you want to have checklists. And checklists, they can also be SOPs, but what you want to do is basically bake in your SOPs into checklists in your project. So here in Trello, you can see that we have this project, which basically is just a bunch of checklists to make sure everything gets hit, right? So we have guidelines for scheduling. We have the onboarding phase. We have the discovery phase, step by step by step by step by step. We have the pre-design phase, step by step by step by step. Everything is mapped out, and everyone who's responsible is tagged so that we all know exactly who is responsible for each stage. So using this in conjunction with a playbook and a guide really empowers your team to run the business for you. And that's really the goal here, because once you have the freedom to step away from the business, then you're a real business owner. Until that point, you're really just a glorified employee. So that's essential to have these sort of checklists, right? So we have a checklist for internal. We also have a checklist for clients, right? Because you have to treat clients differently than you treat your internal team members in terms of, what you're sharing with them, what types of access are they going to get, okay? So that is a wrap for the project management process. And so what I just wanted to share is everything that I've just walked you through, or many of the things that I just went through in today's live as well as the last live, can be found inside the new agency ebook. I'm going to be releasing a new version within the next few days. So if you want to get a free copy of this ebook, it's a full 44-page ebook. Goes through everything from the new model, the new agency, case studies, step by step in terms of productizing, automating, and replacing yourself in the business, as well as case studies and how you can get some support from us if you want to, if you're interested in getting more help. So if you want to download that, I'll just go ahead and drop a link to the ebook, which you can go ahead and download. And also, I'm going to be hosting a live workshop over the next few weeks, just more good stuff on automation. So specifically, how do you productize, how do you automate, and how do you replace yourself in the business, right? So each of these phases contain a few different steps. And so if you're interested in that and you're interested in learning these things for free inside of the Facebook community, I will go ahead and drop a link to that, and I will be making an announcement about that live workshop in the next few days on Wednesday. So let me go ahead and drop a link to that. And again, it's totally free, so feel free to invite to provide as much value as possible. Because again, automation was the #1 challenge as voted upon by our members. And so I just want to jump on and share this with you guys to help you alleviate some of these challenges, because I know it can get overwhelming at times. And the last thing I want is to have you guys, anxious and stressed out because of, not knowing some of these things. All right. So that being said, I just want to thank you for tuning in. My buddy Sean DeWolf, thank you for jumping on, tuning in. I hope this was valuable for you and everyone else that tuned in as well. So yeah, guys, if you want more training like this, if you want into the Facebook group, and I look forward to seeing you inside. All right, thanks, guys. Have a great rest of your Monday. Peace and love, Matt.